I think my testimony kind of starts out the same as a lot of people. I grew up in a pretty typical Christian home. We were in the church every single time those doors were open, and we were staying later than most people, getting there earlier than most people, and we just, as a family, we just always went to church. And for a long time, I thought that bought my family some kind of special protection or something. When I was about 9 or 10 years old, my parents got divorced, and I remember going through this time thinking, like, how could God allow something like this to happen to me, happen to my family? Like, we loved God more than most people. We followed God more than most people. We were in the church more than most people, and yet He would still allow something like this to happen. It caused me a lot of pain and a lot of heartache over many years, where I was still in church and my family still made it important for me to be there and to be present in church. And so it really became more about going through the motions, and I found that the anger that I had towards God wasn't appropriate for the church setting. So I just found myself stuffing it down deep down inside, and every time something would come up with my parents' divorce or feelings or emotions or anything, I would just keep bottling that up. And it got to the point where I just got so angry about everything all the time. I would lash out, and I actually kind of found myself enjoying that anger quite a bit, because it like fueled this rage, like fueled my ability to do things faster or be stronger, like do these different things. And there was one day in particular where I was in a fight with my brother, and we were talking about stuff, and all of a sudden my vision went red, and I don't really remember what happened. The next thing that I remember is standing over my brother, curled up in the fetal position, telling him to get up again and do something. And that really scared me. That really woke me up to, there's something wrong. There's an issue that I haven't taken care of, and I needed to take care of that. And so I went to talk to my youth pastor at the time, and I talked to him about this anger that I had in me, because I knew that someday in the future that if I didn't get a handle on this, I would either end up in prison or that I would end up hurting my future wife or my future kids, and I did not want that to happen. And so I talked to my youth pastor about it, and he said, what's your relationship like with God? And I gave him the typical church answers that you'd expect to hear. Yes, I read my Bible. Yes, I pray. I'm in church every single week. What do you mean? How's my relationship with God? It's fine. And he kept pressing me, and he kept asking me, like, what's your time in the Bible look like? What is your relationship with God like? And like over and over, until finally I got so mad that I said, you really want to know what my relationship with God is like? And I just spilled it all out about my parents' divorce for the first time. And I really talked about how I was so angry with God, and that he was a God who loved people and didn't love me, which in that case, he wasn't this perfect God that everybody talked about, or he didn't exist. And I had this moment where I realized that it had to be one of those two things. And my youth pastor encouraged me to go home, and if I really wanted to get rid of my anger, if I really wanted to change this path that my life was currently on, then I should pray and I should ask him to do something about that. And so I went home, and I felt like I was praying for the first time. Like, it wasn't the table prayer at dinner. It wasn't the bedtime prayer right before you go to sleep, but it was really my first time crying out to God. And I just remember I was in the bathroom, because we had a lot of kids in my house, and the bathroom was like the only place that to have any kind of privacy. And so I was in my bathroom, and I remember crying out to God, and I said, if you're real, if you are who you claim to be in the Bible, you have to do something. You have to change me, because I can't change myself. And I said, you need to take away this anger. I don't want to feel like this all the time. I don't want to deal with this all the time. I don't want to hurt people that I love. And later on, I've always described that anger as like this burning fire in my chest, almost like a furnace, that anytime that I needed to access that level of rage, I would just scoop burning coals into it and just fuel that fire even hotter. And I was able to access that. And all of a sudden, it felt like in that moment when I prayed that God froze that furnace over. He froze that fire, and then it just melted away. And I was left with this empty hole where that furnace was, and it was unreal. It was I'd always had that up until that point, and I didn't know how to feel except have this anger just slowly burning inside me all the time. And so I went back to my youth pastor, and I was like, "What the heck did you do to me? Because this is so weird. This is so empty, but at the same time it feels so free." And it's not that I don't get angry anymore, but it's like I no longer had this raging inferno inside me, and like God completely changed who I was into who I am now. And it was at that moment that I knew that Jesus was more than just my personal savior. He wasn't just a guy that saves you from the fires of hell. He was my master. He was the creator of everything. He was more than I could ever imagine him to be. And it was from that moment on that he stopped being just my savior, and he became the Lord and master of my life. And now, honestly, when I talk to people and I tell them about how angry I used to get, they don't understand how that could possibly be a thing, because they see happy, goofy CJ all the time, and they don't even know what I look like when I get angry. And God is just the God that works miracles.